What would you do if everyone mistook your patience for weakness? Bruce Lee sits cross-legged on the studio floor. His fingers trace ancient characters across yellowed rice paper, calligraphy brushes arranged like sleeping soldiers beside him. The ink flows like water finding its path. This is his sanctuary between takes, between the endless retakes, between the moments when directors treat him like furniture. The Hong Kong film studio buzzes with controlled chaos. Crew members dart between towering lights, cameras roll on dollies like mechanical beasts, and Bruce remains still, a island of calm in the storm. His role today is simple background martial artist number 3. No lines, no close-ups, just movement when the director points, but watch his hands, see how they hold the brush, not like a tool, like an extension of his soul. The characters emerge on paper, flowing graceful, each stroke deliberate, each curve a meditation. Water, he writes the character for water again and again. His father taught him this before the cameras, before Hollywood dreams, before the world knew his name. In the old country, calligraphy was respect. In America, it's just Chinese writing, strange marks on paper, decoration for restaurant walls. Bruce sets down the brush, rolls the paper carefully, slides it into a worn leather portfolio, the same portfolio he's carried since arriving 3 years in America. Now 3 years of small parts, smaller paychecks, smallest expectations. The assistant director approaches clipboard in hand, authority in his stride. Time for the next scene. Bruce, you know what to do. Just stand there, look fierce. Don't upstage the real actors. Bruce nods, stands shoulders back, but his eyes remain soft, not anger, not resentment. Just focus. The real actors take their positions, leading men with perfect teeth, perfect hair, perfect American accents. They don't see Bruce as competition. How could they? He's just the help, the exotic background, the oriental flavor for authenticity. The lead actor today is Jake Morrison. 6 feet of blonde confidence, studio favorite, box office guarantee. Jake's resume reads like Hollywood royalty, westerns, war films, romance pictures, always the hero, always the star. But Jake has a problem. He can't remember his lines. Not today, not yesterday, not last week. The director, Frank Williams, paces behind the camera, expensive Italian shoes clicking against concrete, his patience wearing thin like old film stock. Williams built his reputation on war pictures, tough guys with guns, simple stories, simpler heroes. But this project is different. A kung fu film, Eastern philosophy meets Western action, culture clash on celluloid. The studio executives demanded authenticity, real martial artists, ancient wisdom, mystical combat. So they hired Bruce and 10 other Asian actors, background ornaments, living props. The irony tastes bitter like green tea left too long in the cup. Bruce watches Jake stumble through another take, the same line repeated, the same mistake made, the same frustration building. You dishonor your ancestors, Jake says to his fictional opponent with the conviction of a man ordering coffee. The words hang in the air, empty, meaningless, hollow as tin cans. Bruce's jaw tightens, just slightly, barely visible, but present. Those words mean something. They carry weight. History, sacrifice. His grandfather died protecting family honor. His father left everything behind. His mother still lights incense for forgotten names. But here those words are just sound, syllables to fill silence, dialogue to move plot. The cameraman adjusts his lens. The sound engineer checks his levels. The makeup artist powders Jake's forehead. Everyone pretends this is normal. Bruce returns to his calligraphy. The brush finds the paper, finds the rhythm, finds the piece. Honor, he writes the characters slowly, each stroke a prayer, each line a memory. The old master in Hong Kong taught him this: characters are not just writing, they are meditation, they are connection, they are remembrance. When you write honor, you become honorable. When you write strength, you find strength. When you write water, you learn to flow, but also to cut through stone. The studio door opens, bright California sunlight streams in. A silhouette appears, tall, confident, expensive suit. The producer, Vincent Sterling, money made flesh, power in pinstripe. Sterling surveys his investment, counts heads like inventory, calculates cost per minute, per take, per breath. His eyes skip over Bruce. Inventory that doesn't count, background that doesn't matter, expense that doesn't justify. Bruce feels the dismissal, sharp as a blade, quick as lightning, painful as truth. But he continues writing. The brush moves, the ink flows, the characters appear. Patience, he writes patience because that's what his father taught him, what his mother showed him, what America demands from him. Wait your turn, know your place, be grateful for scraps. The assistant director claps his hands. All right, people, places, everyone, let's get this right. Bruce, you're in position to just Stand there, look threatening, but not too threatening. We don't want to scare the audience. Bruce moves to his mark, the same mark he stood on 100 times in 100 different scenes, playing 100 different versions of the same invisible man. But today feels different. Today the water is moving. Today patience transforms into something else entirely. The camera rolls, action is called, and Bruce Lee stands perfectly still while the world spins around him, waiting for the moment when stillness becomes storm, when silence becomes roar, when the background steps into the light. His calligraphy portfolio rests nearby, leather worn smooth by handling, pages filled with wisdom, words that matter, characters that count. Soon everyone will see what happens when you mistake patience for weakness, stillness for surrender, silence for submission. Soon the water will find its way through every crack, every weakness, every hollow space, and Bruce Lee will remind them all that the quietest storms are often the most powerful, that the deepest waters run the strongest currents, that the most patient warriors strike with the force of lightning. The scene begins, but this is just the beginning of something much larger, much deeper, much more dangerous than anyone in this studio could possibly imagine. The laughter starts small, like droplets before rain, then grows, spreads, becomes a storm. Jake Morrison holds Bruce's calligraphy portfolio lifted from the corner where Bruce left it during the lunch break, when trust still lived. Look at this, everyone. Jake's voice carries across the soundstage, bounces off walls, echoes in corners where shame likes to hide. The crew gathers, drawn by curiosity, held by cruelty, fed by boredom. Jake opens the leather folder. Pages spill out like secrets, ancient characters dancing on rice paper, wisdom reduced to entertainment. What is this supposed to be, some kind of Chinese homework? Jake's laugh cuts sharp, like broken glass, like shattered dreams. The grip operator chuckles. The lighting technician smirks. The script supervisor shakes her head. Everyone needs someone to feel superior to. Bruce stands frozen 20 feet away between the craft services table and his dignity. His hands still hold a paper cup, coffee growing cold, like the feeling in his chest, like the hope in his heart. Frank Williams, the director, approaches, curiosity replacing irritation for a moment, just a moment. Actually, Jake, those look pretty sophisticated. Williams squints at the characters, pretends to understand depth, pretends to care, but Jake isn't finished. His audience is too good, his power too sweet, his cruelty too easy. Sophisticated, Jake repeats the word like it tastes funny, like it means nothing. This is just scribbles, chicken scratch, fancy doodles. He holds up a page, the character for honor written with Bruce's finest brush, his steadiest hand, his purest intention. Now it flutters in Jake's grip like a dying bird, like a broken wing, like everything beautiful made ugly. Look, I can do this too. Jake grabs a pen from his shirt pocket, scribbles random lines across the bottom, mockery masquerading as art. There, I'm a Chinese philosopher now. Where's my fortune cookie? The laughter grows louder, more confident, more cruel, more comfortable. Bruce's feet want to move, his hands want to act, his heart wants to speak, but something holds him back. Not fear, not weakness, something else. Years of training, years of discipline, years of his father's voice. The wise warrior chooses his battles. The patient fighter waits for the right moment. The skilled artist preserves his energy. But this isn't about strategy. This isn't about wisdom. This is about watching something sacred becomes something profane. Vincent Sterling, the producer, approaches, drawn by the commotion, calculating the cost of lost time, of broken focus, of disrupted production. What's the holdup here? Sterling's voice carries authority, commands. Attention, demands answers. Jake turns, still holding the portfolio, still wearing his smirk, still drunk on power, just looking at some of Bruce's artwork. Jake says the word artwork like it's a joke, like it's pretend, like it's worthless. Sterling glances at the papers, sees foreign characters, sees wasted time, sees irrelevance. Put that away. We have a schedule to keep. Sterling's dismissal is swift, clean, final, but Jake isn't ready to stop. The audience is too good, the power too sweet, the moment too perfect. Come on, Vince, this is educational cultural exchange. Jake waves another page, the character for strength, now a prop in his performance. Maybe Bruce can teach us all how to write grocery lists in Chinese. More laughter, louder, now more participants. More witnesses. The camera operator joins in. The boom mic guy snickers. The makeup artist covers her mouth, but her eyes are smiling. Bruce finally moves, steps forward, crosses the invisible line between audience and performer. His voice comes quiet, steady, controlled. Those are not grocery lists. Those are not homework. Those are not scribbles. The laughter stops, sudden, complete, like a record player unplugged. Bruce continues, his voice gathering strength, like water finding its course, like wind building Speed, those characters represent ideas, concepts your language struggles to express, wisdom your culture forgot to remember. The silence stretches, uncomfortable, unexpected, unfamiliar. Jake's smile falters, just slightly, just enough, just for a moment. Oh. Really, Jake's voice loses some confidence, but gains some anger, some defensiveness, some fear. Enlighten us. Then Professor Lee, what do these chicken scratches mean? Bruce steps closer, his portfolio still in Jake's hands, his dignity still intact, his patience still holding, but something else grows behind his eyes and his chest, around his heart. Not anger, not rage, something deeper, something older, something more dangerous. The character you're holding, Bruce points to the paper, the one you called scribbles, means honor. Honor, Jake repeats, like he's tasting poison, like he's swallowing glacis. Honor, the thing you lose when you mock what you don't understand, when you laugh at what you fear, when you destroy what you cannot create. The soundstage falls silent. Everyone watches, everyone waits, everyone holds their breath. This is the moment when water meets stone, when patience meets provocation, when the quiet man finds his voice. Jake's grip tightens on the portfolio, his knuckles white, his jaw set, his pride wounded. But he's not done, not yet, not here, not in front of everyone. You want to talk about honor? Jake's voice rises, carries edge, promises trouble. Let's see how honorable you are when you're not hiding behind pretty pictures and fortune cookie. Wisdom, the challenge hangs in the air, like smoke, like tension, like the moment before lightning. Bruce Lee stands perfectly still, his coffee cup forgotten, his patience tested, his water beginning to boil, and everyone in that studio knows something is about to change, something is about to break, something is about to reveal itself. The question is no longer what will Bruce do, but what will Jake do when he discovers that some storms are worth the wait. The days that follow taste like poison. Each morning brings fresh humiliation, each afternoon new mockery, each evening deeper shame. Jake Morrison has found his favorite game, Bruce Lee, his favorite target, the crew, his willing audience, the studio, his private arena. Monday morning, Bruce arrives early, sets up his calligraphy station, arranges his brushes with ceremony. Jake appears like a storm cloud, brings coffee in a paper cup, approaches Bruce's workspace, pretends to stumble. The coffee spills hot liquid across rice paper, ink bleeding into chaos. Hours of work destroyed. Oops, Jake's voice drips, false concern. Butter wouldn't melt in that lying mouth. Sorry about that, Bruce. Guess you'll have to start over. Maybe stick to English next time, something everyone can understand. The crew watches from the shadows, some laugh, some look away, some pretend not to see, but they all see, they all know, they all choose silence. Tuesday brings worse. Jake waits until Bruce finishes a particularly difficult character, virtue written in flowing strokes. Then Jake bumps the table, jostles the ink, while ruins the work again. This becomes his pattern, his ritual, his entertainment. Wednesday, he brings friends, other actors from different sets, tourists in the land of cruelty. Look at this, guys. Jake points to Bruce's work. This is what passes for art in the old country. The visitors laugh on cue, perform their appreciation. Feed Jake's growing hunger. Thursday, the director Frank Williams notices, but notices wrong, sees disruption, not destruction, sees inefficiency, not injustice. Bruce Williams calls out, maybe save the artwork for home. We're here to make movies, not museum pieces. The words hit harder than any physical blow. Authority joining mockery, leadership endorsing cruelty. Bruce nods, packs his brushes, stores his paper, swallows his pride, but something else stirs in the quiet places, in the deep waters, in the patient heart. Friday brings the worst. Jake arrives with props, a fortune cookie, a cheap paper fan, a plastic boot. Entertainment value, Jake announces. For our resident philosopher, he places the items around Bruce's workspace, creates a shrine to stereotypes, a monument to ignorance, a temple of disrespect. The crew gathers, drawn by spectacle, held by momentum, fed by participation. Jake opens the fortune cookie, reads the slip inside, affects a ridiculous accent. You will find happiness in meaningless platitudes. Jake's voice mocks centuries of wisdom and tradition. The laughter comes easier, now more comfortable, more cruel, more collective. Bruce watches from his mark, silent, still seething. His hands remain steady, his face remains calm, his heart remains patient, but his eyes begin to burn. The old janitor sees it. Tommy Chin, 60 years of watching, 60 years of knowing. Tommy sweeps quietly, moves through shadows, observes from corners, remembers everything's worked. This studio, since the golden age, when respect meant something, when craft mattered more than cruelty. Tommy knows what Jake doesn't, that stillness isn't weakness, that patience isn't surrender, that quiet men are often the most dangerous. During lunch break, Tommy approaches Bruce, brings wisdom wrapped in whispers, offers solidarity Without words, his presence says enough. You're not alone, you're not forgotten, you're not defeated. But Tommy knows something else, something that makes his old heart heavy, something that shows in his worried eyes. This cannot continue. This will not end quietly. This is building towards something that will change everything. The afternoon brings Vincent Sterling, the producer, with his calculating eyes, his profit-focused mind, his bottom-line priorities. Sterling sees the disruption, measures the lost time, counts the wasted money, calculates the damage, but he doesn't see the real cost, the human price. The spiritual toll, the approaching storm. What's the problem? Here Sterling's voice cuts through the noise, demands explanations, requires solutions. Jake steps forward, confident, grinning, lying. No problem, Vince, just some cultural differences, nothing that can't be worked out. Sterling's eyes find Bruce, measure his worth, assess his value, determine his fate. Yuri, the martial arts consultant. Sterling's voice carries no warmth, nor recognition, no respect. Can you do your job without the distractions, without the drama, without the disruption? The words hang in the air, like an ultimatum, like a threat, like a choice. Bruce nods, once sharp, clean, final, good. Sterling turns away, dismisses the moment, moves on to bigger concerns, but something has shifted in the studio's atmosphere, in the crew's awareness, in Bruce's patience. The water is moving faster now, finding new channels, cutting deeper grooves, building greater pressure. Jake feels it too, the change in the air, the shift in the dynamic, the approaching confrontation, but he misreads the signs. Mistakes silence for surrender, mistakes stillness for defeat, mistakes patience for weakness. So he pushes harder, laughs louder, cuts deeper, assumes more. The crew watches with growing unease. Some begin to sense what Tommy already knows, what Bruce has always known, that storms don't announce themselves, that water doesn't warn stone, that patience has limits, that quiet men have breaking points. The question is no longer will Bruce Lee snap, but when and how, and what will be left when the storm finally breaks. The cameras roll, the scene plays out, the work continues, but underneath, in the quiet places, in the deep currents, in the patient heart, something ancient stirs, something powerful awakens, something inevitable approaches, and everyone in that studio, whether they know it or not, is about to witness what happens when you mistake the calm before the storm for the absence of thunder. The day ends. The crew disperses, the studio empties, but the tension remains thick as fog, heavy as storm clouds, dangerous as still water. Tomorrow will bring more mockery, more humiliation, more testing, and Bruce Lee will face it with the same quiet dignity, the same patient strength, the same building storm, until the moment comes when patience transforms, when stillness becomes motion, when the quiet man finally speaks. The weekend passes like a funeral, slow, heavy, final. Bruce Lee sits alone in his small apartment, stares at blank rice paper, brush trembling in his hand. For the first time in years, the ink won't flow, the characters won't come, the peace won't settle, the storm won't calm. He tries to write water, but sees only Jake's mocking face. Tries to write honor, but hears only cruel laughter. Tries to write patience, but feels only its absence. Sunday night, he calls his father, voice crossing oceans, carrying shame, seeking wisdom. The old man listens, hears the pain beneath words, feels the distance between them, knows the struggle without details. In America, his father's voice carries weight, like ancient mountains, like deep rivers, like enduring stone. They do not understand what they do not know, but understanding is not required for respect. To exist, the words should comfort, should strengthen, should guide, but they feel hollow, like fortune cookie wisdom, like empty platitudes, like everything Jake said they were. Monday morning arrives, merciless as sunlight, inevitable as gravity, cruel as truth. Bruce enters the studio carrying his portfolio, his brushes, his shrinking dignity. The crew avoids his eyes. Guilt makes them uncomfortable. Shame makes them distant. Complicity makes them cold. Jake arrives late, hungover, aggressive, dangerous. He spots Bruce, immediately smells weakness, senses opportunity, tastes blood. Well, Jake's voice carries poison, slides like oil, cuts like glass. If it isn't our resident artist ready for another day of meaningless scribbles and ancient wisdom. The crew tenses, knows what's coming, prepares for the show, dreads the performance. Bruce says nothing, sets up his workspace, arranges his tools, steadies his breathing, but his hands shake just slightly, just enough, just visible. Jake sees it, smells the fear, tastes the defeat, feels the power. What's wrong? Bruce, losing your touch, running out of pretty pictures to hide behind. The words hit like hammers against already cracked glass, against already broken spirit, against already bleeding heart. Bruce tries to write The brush finds paper, the ink flows, the character emerges, but Jake isn't finished, won't be finished, can't be finished until something breaks completely. He leans over Bruce's shoulder, breathes alcohol, and cruelty whispers loud enough for everyone. You know what your problem is. You think you're special, think you're deep, think you're wise, but you're just another pretentious wannabe, playing with finger paints and calling it art. The brush stops moving, the ink stops flowing, the character stops forming. The patient stops holding Bruce, hand tightens around the brush handle, around his last restraint, around his final thread. You want to know what I think? Jake's voice grows louder, more confident, more destructive. I think you're a fraud, a fake, a fortune cookie philosopher selling wisdom you don't possess. The studio falls silent. Everyone watches, everyone waits, everyone holds their breath. This is the moment when water meets stone, when patience meets provocation, when the quiet man finds his limits. Bruce stands slowly, turns to face Jake, looks into those mocking eyes, sees nothing but emptiness. His voice comes quiet, steady, controlled. What did you say? Jake grins, thinks he's winning, thinks he's conquered, thinks he's safe. You heard me. I said you're a fraud, a fake, a pretender. The words hang in the air like smoke, like tension, like the moment before lightning. Bruce takes a step forward, then another, until he's close enough to count Jake's heartbeats, to smell his fear, to see his sudden doubt. You want to know about fraud? Bruce's voice stays quiet, but carries new weight, new danger, new promise. Let me tell you about fraud. Fraud is mocking what you fear, destroying what you cannot create, laughing at what you don't understand. Jake's smile falters, his confidence wavers, his bravado cracks, his fear shows. Bruce continues, his voice growing stronger, more focused, more dangerous. Fraud is a grown man bullying someone smaller, weaker, quieter. Jake steps backward, bumps into the camera, stumbles over his own feet, reveals his true nature, but Bruce follows, matches each step, maintains the distance, applies the pressure. You want to see my art? Bruce's voice fills the studio, commands attention, demands respect. You want to understand my culture, my wisdom, my patience? Then let me show you what happens when that patience finally runs out. The last word drops like a stone, like a threat, like a promise. Jake's face goes pale, his hands shake, his voice cracks, his courage. DC, I was just joking around, just having fun, just what? Bruce's voice cuts through excuses, through lies, through pretense, just bullying, just destroying, just revealing exactly who you are. The studio watches, transfixed, terrified. Transform. This is not the Bruce they know, not the quiet man, not the patient artist, not the background player. This is something else, something deeper, something more dangerous, something they should have recognized before they mistook patience for weakness, silence for surrender, stillness for defeat. Frank Williams, the director, realizes too late what he's allowed, what he's encouraged, what he's created. Vincent Sterling, the producer, calculates the cost of his miscalculation, of his misunderstanding, of his mistake. Tommy Chun, the janitor, nods slowly, knows what's coming, prepares for the storm, and Bruce Lee stands in the center of it all, no longer patient, no longer quiet, no longer invisible. The water has found its way through every crack, every weakness, every hollow space, and now everyone will see what they should have known, what they should have respected, what they should have feared. The storm is here, the breaking point reached, the quiet man finally ready to speak in the language everyone understands, in the voice everyone will hear, in the way everyone will remember forever. Tommy Chun watches from the shadows, his weathered hands gripping the mop handle like a staff, like a weapon, like a lifeline. He's seen this before, different faces, same story, same ending. The old janitor moves between the chaos, invisible to most, ignored by all, but seeing everything. Tommy knows what others don't, about quiet strength, about hidden depths, about the cost of underestimating the wrong person. After the confrontation, after Jake's retreat, after the studio's shocked silence, Tommy approaches Bruce. The young man sits alone, portfolio scattered, brushes, broken spirit fractured. Tommy says nothing, just sits beside him on the concrete floor in the dying light. Two immigrants, two outsiders. Two men who understand what it means to be invisible. Finally, Tommy speaks, his voice carrying decades of wisdom, of watching, of waiting. You remind me of someone I knew long ago, another young man with fire in his eyes and art in his hands. Bruce looks up, sees kindness in weathered features, recognizes solidarity and shared experience. Who? Bruce's voice comes hoarse, broken, barely there. Tommy stands slowly, old joints protesting, old muscles remembering, old pain awakening. Come with me, there's something you should see, something they don't know, something they forgot. They walk through empty hallways, past darkened stages, through forgotten corners where history sleeps. Tommy stops at a storage room, rusted lock, dusty door, forgotten entrance he produces. A key worn smooth by decades of secret visits of private remembrance, the door opens, reveals boxes, files, memories to me, moves with purpose, finds what he seeks, lifts it carefully, like holding sacred text. A frame, old glass, faded photograph, forgotten. Face this man, Tommy's voice carries reverence, worked here 20 years ago, before your time, before their memory. Bruce studies the photograph, sees himself reflected in another's eyes, another's struggle, another's dream. Master Lu Wei. Tommy continues, greatest martial artist this studio ever employed, greatest they ever ignored. The story unfolds like scroll painting, like ancient wisdom, like forgotten truth. Lu Wei came from China, same dreams as Bruce, same talent. Same hope, same naive belief that skill would speak louder than prejudice. He was background 2 extra number 7 nameless face, invisible talent. But Lu Wei had something else. Tommy's eyes grow distant, remembering, reliving, regretting he had this. Tommy reaches deeper into the box, into the past, into the pain. Another frame emerges, certificate, recognition, validation, imperial calligraphy master, first class honors, Beijing Academy of Arts 1938. Bruce's hands shake as he holds the frame, feels the weight of forgotten achievement, of ignored excellence, of buried respect. Lu Wei was not just martial artist. Tommy's voice grows stronger, more urgent, more important. He was scholar, philosopher, artist like you. The words hit harder than any physical blow, carry more weight than any insult, because they reveal truth about then, about now, about the pattern that never breaks. What happened to him? Bruce's voice comes whisper soft, afraid of the answer, knowing it already, feeling it coming. Tommy's silence speaks volumes, says everything, reveals nothing, promises pain. He tried. Tommy finally answers to show them who he really was, what he could do. Day, the director, same type as Williams, same blindness, same arrogance, told Lu Wei to fight for real, make it authentic, give them something genuine. So Lu Wei did, showed them power, showed them skill, showed them art, and they fired him. Tommy's voice breaks after 20 years of faithful service, of quiet dignity, of patient waiting. Said he was too aggressive, too authentic, too real, too dangerous. Bruce feels the weight of history, repeating of patterns, continuing of justice delayed, but something else. Tommy reaches deeper into the box, into the secret, into the treasure. Lu Wei left something behind, something precious, something powerful, something meant for someone like you. The final frame emerges, larger than the others, heavier than memory, more important than recognition. Original calligraphy, Lu Wei's masterpiece, characters flowing like water, like wind, like everything beautiful made permanent. The text reads ancient wisdom about patience, about strength, about the moment when silence becomes speech, when stillness becomes motion, when the student becomes master. Bruce traces the characters, feels their power, understands their meaning, knows their purpose. This belongs to you now. Tommy's voice carries ceremony, ritual, passing of torch. Lu Wei would want another artist to have it, another fighter to understand, another dreamer to remember that we are not invisible, we are not background, we are not meaningless, we are keepers of ancient wisdom, of forgotten arts, of patient power. Bruce accepts the frame, feels its weight, carries its responsibility, understands its message. Lu Wei's story becomes his story. Lu Wei's struggle becomes his struggle. Lu Wei's legacy becomes his legacy, but also his warning, his cautionary tale, his prediction of what comes next if nothing changes, if patterns continue, if silence remains the only response to systematic cruelty. Tommy locks the storage room, returns the key to its hiding place, its secret purpose. They walk back together through empty hallways, past darkened stages, toward tomorrow's battles. But Bruce carries something new, something powerful, something dangerous, something that changes everything. The knowledge that he's not alone, never was alone, never will be alone in this struggle, and that some things are worth fighting for, worth revealing, worth the risk of stepping out of the shadows into the light, where everyone can see what they chose to ignore, what they tried to forget, what they refused to respect. The legacy lives, the art continues, the story goes on, and Bruce Lee carries it forward into whatever comes next, into whatever they bring, into whatever he decides to show them, about the difference between background and foreground, between silence and speech, between patience and power. The storm is building, the water is rising, the quiet man is finding his voice, and Lu Wei's ghost watches approvingly from the shadows, where all the forgotten masters wait for justice to finally find its way home. The next morning arrives like Judgment Day, heavy clouds gathering overhead, pressure building in the atmosphere, everyone sensing the approaching Storm today is different today matters today. The studio executives visit, bringing money, bringing power, bringing the future in their briefcases. Vincent Sterling paces frantically expensive shoes, clicking nervous rhythms against concrete floors against. Mounting pressure against his own desperation, the film is behind schedule, over budget, under scrutiny. The investors are asking questions, demanding answers, threatening consequences. This demonstration must be perfect. Sterling's voice carries desperation. Barely concealed panic, thinly veiled threats. We need to show them authenticity, real martial arts, genuine Eastern philosophy, cultural legitimacy. The irony tastes bitter, like medicine, like poison, like everything wrong with this place, this industry. This moment, Frank Williams assembles the crew, arranges the actors, orchestrates the deception, prepares the performance. Jake Morrison preens, adjusts his costume, practices his lines, prepares to play the hero in someone else's story. Bruce Lee stands in the background, where they always put him, where they always want him, where they always expect him to stay. But today, he carries something different. Lu Wei's legacy burning in his chest, ancient wisdom flowing through his veins, patient power coiled. Like a spring, the executives arrive precisely at noon. Expensive suits, expensive watches, expensive ignorance. They bring clipboards, calculators, cold eyes that see only numbers, profit margins, market potential. Sterling begins his presentation words, flowing like oil, slick, practiced, poisonous. Gentlemen, welcome to our authentic Eastern martial arts production, featuring real fighters, real philosophy, real cultural depth. The lies come easily, naturally, convincingly, desperately. Williams steps forward, adds his own deceptions, layers of pretense, mountains of manipulation. We've assembled the finest martial artists available in Hollywood, authentic practitioners of ancient traditions. More lies, bigger lies, bolder lies, building towards something that cannot be sustained. Jake Morrison takes center stage, begins his demonstration, throws punches at the air, kicks at invisible enemies, performs martial arts like a dance, like a cartoon, like everything sacred made profane. The executives nod, take notes, calculate returns, measure authenticity by how much it looks like what they expect from the movies. Now Jake announces, like a carnival barker, like a snake oil salesman, like everything wrong with representation. Let me show you real Eastern combat. Ancient techniques, mystical power. He gestures to Bruce, points like he's selecting produce at market props for performance, background for authenticity. You there, Jake's voice carries command, condescension, casual cruelty. Come, show these gentlemen what real kung fu looks like. Give them some authentic Eastern action. The words hang in the air like smoke, like poison, like the moment before everything changes. Bruce feels the weight of every expectation, every assumption. They want to show a performance, a demonstration of their preconceptions. They want him to play the exotic other, the mysterious martial artist, the fortune cookie philosopher, to bow, to smile, to perform their version of what he should. Beta executives lean forward, hungry for spectacle, thirsty for authenticity, desperate for validation of their investment. Sterling's eyes plead, Williams' jaw tightens, Jake's smile widens. The crew holds its breath. This is the moment they've been building toward, the public test, the ultimate humiliation, the final attempt to reduce Bruce Lee to their comfortable, profitable, manageable version of truth. Bruce steps forward into the light, into the spotlight, into the center of their attention. His movements are liquid, controlled, purposeful. Different. The executives notice the change in atmosphere, the shift in energy, the transformation of background into foreground. Jake expects compliance, subservience, performance on command, the usual routine, but Bruce's eyes carry something new, something Lu Wei left behind, something Tommy helped him find, something his father taught him, something his art prepared him for. This moment, when patience becomes power, when silence becomes speech, when background becomes the most important thing in the frame. The studio falls silent, every breath held, every heartbeat loud, every second stretched like a wire about to snap. Bruce looks at Jake, at the executives, at Sterling, at Williams, at the crew, at everyone who participated in reducing him to their comfortable fiction, and then he speaks, voice quiet, but carrying power, like distant thunder, like approaching storm, like water finding its way through every crack in their foundation. You want to see real martial arts, real Eastern philosophy, real authentic tradition. The words drop like stones into still water, creating ripples that will reach every shore. Then let me show you what you've been too blind to see, too ignorant to recognize, too arrogant to respect. Bruce moves to his portfolio. The One Jake has mocked the one everyone dismissed, the one containing Lu Wei's legacy, his own truth, their education. He lifts out the frame, Lu Wei's masterpiece, the calligraphy that proves what they refused to see, what they chose to ignore, what they tried to erase. This Bruce's voice fills the studio, commands attention, demands respect, is what you've been laughing at, dismissing, destroying. Master Lu Wei, Imperial Calligraphy Artist, first-class honors, Beijing Academy. 20 years he worked here. 20 years invisible, 20 years enduring. What you're putting me through the frame catches the light, ancient wisdom gleaming forgotten. Excellence, shining, buried, truth revealed, and the executives for the first time begin to understand that they have been watching the wrong show, betting on the wrong horse, investing in the wrong story. The real show is about to begin. Comment below where you're watching from. This story is just getting started. The silence that follows is deafening, like the moment after lightning before thunder arrives, before the world remembers how to breathe. Bruce holds Lu Wei's frame higher, ancient characters catching studio lights, wisdom made visible, excellence. Undeniable truth, impossible to ignore. The executives lean forward, squint at the calligraphy, see beauty they cannot read, recognize mastery they cannot understand, feel shame they cannot name. What does it say? The lead investor asks, voice smaller now. Less confident, more curious. Bruce eyes find each face, memorize each expression, mark each moment of their awakening. It says his voice carries ceremony, ritual, revelation. The patient warrior chooses his moment not from anger, but from necessity, not for revenge, but for justice. Jake Morrison's face drains of color, his swagger dissolves, his confidence crumbles, his mask slips away. Vincent Sterling realizes what he has allowed, what he has encouraged, what he has created in his pursuit of profit. Frank Williams understands, finally, too late, the talent he has wasted, the artist he has dismissed, the opportunity he has destroyed. Bruce continues, voice growing stronger, purpose crystallizing, power emerging. Master Lu Wei wrote this 20 years ago in this very studio. After enduring what you've watched me endure, the frame trembles in Bruce's hands, not from fear, but from controlled fury, barely contained force, righteous power. He wrote it the day before they fired him for being too authentic, too real, too skilled, too threatening to their comfortable lies. Tommy Chin steps from the shadows, old janitor, becoming witness, silent observer, becoming testimony, invisible man, becoming validation. Tommy's voice carries decades of watching, of knowing, of remembering. It was here I saw it all. Lu Wei was the greatest fighter this studio ever employed, the greatest they ever ignored. The executives shift uncomfortably, calculators, forgotten clipboards, lowered assumptions, shattered. Tommy continues, each word a nail in the coffin of their ignorance. Every stunt coordinator, every fight choreographer, every martial arts consultant they hired after Lu Wei was pretending to know what he knew. Naturally, the weight of truth settles over the studio like dust after explosion, like silence after storm, like shame after revelation. Bruce sets down the frame, steps toward Jake, who backs away, stumbles over cables, trips over his own fear. You want authentic martial arts? Bruce's voice carries new authority, commands attention, demands respect. Let me show you what 20 years of dismissal created. Bruce moves not like an actor, not like a performer, not like background, like water, like wind, like everything natural, made perfect through discipline, through patience, through the marriage of art and power. His body flows between positions, through forms, across space, with liquid grace, economical precision, devastating beauty. No wasted motion, no unnecessary flourish, no performance for effect, just pure, undiluted, authentic martial artistry. The executives stare, mouths open, hearts racing, minds rewriting everything they thought they understood. This is not what they expected, what they purchased, what they imagined. This is something else, something real, something powerful, something they have been too blind to see, too ignorant to value, too arrogant to respect. Jake tries to speak, to interrupt, to regain control, but words fail him. His mouth opens, closes, opens again, like a fish drowning in air. In truth, in the revelation of his own inadequacy, Bruce completes his demonstration, returns to stillness, but the energy remains crackling, dangerous, transformed. The studio that moments ago buzzed with their casual cruelty now trembles with new awareness, new understanding, new fear. Vincent Sterling finds his voice cracked, uncertain, small. How long have you been able to? How long have we been? Why didn't anyone tell us? The questions hang unfinished because the answers are too uncomfortable, too revealing, too damning. Tommy Chun provides them anyway, voice steady, unflinching, unforgiving, because you never asked, never Looked, never cared, never saw him as anything more than decoration, background noise, exotic flavoring. The lead executive pulls Sterling aside, whispers urgently about opportunities, about possibilities, about the fortune they have been too stupid to recognize. Bruce watches the scramble, the sudden calculation, the rapid reassessment of his value, not his humanity, not his dignity, not his artistry, his value. The bitter irony tastes familiar, feels expected, confirms everything he already knew about this place, these people, this industry. Jake Morrison slinks away, defeated, exposed, reduced to what he always was, beneath the swagger, behind the cruelty, under the performance. Say, a scared little man, threatened by excellence, diminished by authenticity. Revealed as the fraud he accused others of being. Frank Williams approaches, hat in hand, tail between legs, excuses on his tongue. Bruce, I had no idea. If I had known, we could have. Bruce's eyes stop him cold, clean, final. The time for excuses has passed. The moment for apologies has expired. The opportunity for redemption was wasted long ago. Bruce picks up Lu Wei's frame, holds it like a shield, like a weapon, like a promise. This legacy will not be forgotten again. This talent will not be dismissed again. This respect will not be denied again. He looks at each face, burns each expression into memory, into purpose, into the foundation of what comes next. The demonstration is over. The revelation complete, the reckoning begun, and Bruce Lee, no longer background, no longer invisible, no longer patient, walks toward the exit, carrying Lu Wei's wisdom, Tommy's support, his own dignity, and the absolute certainty that everything in this studio, in this industry, in this story is about to change forever. The studio transforms overnight, like a crime scene, after the investigators leave, after the truth emerges, after everything changes. Bruce Lee doesn't return the next day or the day after or the week after. His absence echoes through empty corners, across silent stages, into guilty consciences. Vincent Sterling paces his office phone, calls multiplying, damage control, escalating, panic spreading like wildfire. The executives want answers, explanations, solutions, immediate fixes. For 20 years of systematic blindness, how do you explain that you had a master and treated him like a servant, that you owned a diamond and used it as decoration, that you possessed greatness and called it background? Frank Williams finds himself defending the indefensible, explaining the inexplicable, justifying the unjustifiable. The studio head arrives, expensive suit, expensive car, expensive disappointment. His voice carries the weight of lost opportunities, missed investments, squandered potential. Do you realize what you've done, who you've lost, what this could have been? The questions hang like accusations, like verdicts, like epitaphs, for careers, for credibility, for futures. Jake Morrison disappears, first from the studio, then from the industry. His name becomes whisper, his reputation becomes warning, his story becomes cautionary tale about what happens when mediocrity attacks excellence, when ignorance challenges wisdom, when cruelty meets consequence. Tommy Chun becomes hero overnight, the old janitor who preserved the truth, who kept the legacy, who chose the right moment to reveal what mattered. Reporters call, documentary makers visit, film historians inquire about Lu Wei, about Bruce Lee, about the pattern of buried talent, ignored genius, systematic dismissal. The storage room opens officially, finally, completely. 20 years of hidden treasures emerge into light: certificates, photographs, correspondence, evidence of excellence, proof of prejudice, documentation of discrimination. Lu Wei's story spreads beyond the studio, beyond Hollywood, beyond America, into universities, into textbooks, into consciousness. His calligraphy hangs in the studio lobby, behind glass, under lights, with a plaque that reads, Master Lu Wei, Imperial Calligraphy Artist, Martial Arts Consultant, 1948 to 1968. His excellence was evident to those who chose to see, but it's Bruce Lee's name they add beneath in smaller letters, but present, but visible, but acknowledged. Student, teacher, legacy bearer, artist, fighter, man who would not be invisible any longer. The industry changes slowly, imperfectly, inadequately, but measurably. New policies emerge, sensitivity, training begins, respect becomes requirement, at least on paper, at least in meetings, at least in mission statements. Studios compete to hire Bruce Lee, to claim his talent, to monetize his authenticity, to profit from his skills. The offers pour in: leading roles, creative control, consultant positions, partnership deals. Money flows like water, finding its level, like justice delayed, but not denied, like respect earned through struggle, through patience, through the quiet dignity of refusing to disappear. Bruce Lee studies each offer, weighs each opportunity, considers each Possibility with new eyes, new wisdom, new power, but also with memory of Lu Wei's fate, of Tommy's loyalty, of his own journey from background to foreground, from invisible to undeniable. Some studios change their practices, their policies, their perspectives. Others simply change their marketing, their language, their public image, while keeping the same hearts, the same minds, the same comfortable prejudices. Dressed in new clothes, Bruce Lee learns to tell the difference between genuine transformation and profitable performance, between real respect and calculated kindness, between authentic change and strategic adjustment. He chooses carefully, partners wisely, builds deliberately the career, the legacy, the future that honors Lu Wei's memory, Tommy's faith, his own truth. The studios that hire him discover something wonderful, something profitable, something transformative: authentic martial arts, real cultural depth, genuine artistic vision, combined with box office appeal, international market potential, cross-cultural bridge building. But more than that, they discover respect for excellence, for authenticity, for the artists they had been too blind to see, too ignorant to value, too comfortable to change. The films Bruce Lee makes carry Lu Wei's wisdom, Tommy's truth, his own power. Each character becomes a teacher, each story becomes a lesson. Each moment becomes an opportunity to show the world what they almost lost, what they nearly destroyed, what they finally learned to value. The studio, where it all began, thrives under new leadership, new vision, new respect for the artists who make the magic, who create the dreams, who deserve recognition, dignity. Honor. A small display case appears near the entrance behind the reception desk, where everyone can see inside rest Lu Wei's original brushes, his calligraphy tools, his forgotten certificates, his remembered excellence. And beside them, Bruce Lee's first portfolio, the one Jake Morrison mocked, the one that contained the seeds of transformation, of justice, of change. Visitors pause to read the plaque, to study the artifacts, to understand the story of how excellence, hidden in plain sight, finally found its way into the light. The case becomes shrine, the story becomes legend, the lesson becomes legacy. And Bruce Lee, no longer background, no longer patient, no longer invisible, continues his journey from that small studio to international stardom, to global influence, to eternal impact, carrying always the memory of Lu Wei, the wisdom of Tommy, the truth that excellence cannot be buried forever, that respect cannot be denied indefinitely, that some storms are worth the wait. The quiet revolution begins with dignity, builds through persistence, succeeds through authenticity, endures through truth, and changes everything. Years pass like seasons, each one carrying change, deeper transformation, lasting impact. The studio where Bruce Lee once stood invisible now bears his name on the main stage, where his first starring role was filmed, where respect finally found its home. Children visit on school trips, stand before Lu Wei's display case, learn about hidden excellence, about patient dignity, about the cost of blindness, the price of prejudice, the power of perseverance. Their teacher explains how two artists separated by decades, connected by struggle, changed an industry by refusing to disappear. Bruce Lee's films play in theaters worldwide, subtitled in languages he never learned to speak, dubbed by voices he never heard, reaching hearts he never imagined touching. But more than entertainment, they carry teaching more than action. They deliver wisdom more than spectacle. They offer truth, about honor, about respect, about the quiet strength that lives in patient hearts, about the storm that builds in silenced voices, about the moment when enough becomes enough. Tommy Chin retires with full pension, company recognition, industry respect. His final day, he stands before Lu Wei's case, nods once job completed, promise kept, legacy preserved. The young janitor who replaces him finds a note in Tommy's locker written in careful English: on rice paper, watch for the quiet ones, they carry the most powerful storms, listen to the invisible ones, they have the most important stories, respect the patient ones, they know when to speak, and when the moment comes, be ready to stand with truth against comfort, with justice against convenience, with dignity against profit. The note becomes tradition, passed from janitor to janitor, from observer to observer, from witness to witness, a reminder that revolution sometimes wears work clothes, sometimes carries a mop, sometimes speaks in whispers until the moment arrives to speak in thunder. Vincent Sterling opens a scholarship fund in Lu Wei's name for young Asian artists, martial arts students, calligraphy practitioners. His guilt becomes philanthropy. His shame becomes service. His failure becomes someone else's opportunity. Frank Williams retires early, teaches film school, warns young directors about the cost of seeing talent as background noise, of treating artists as decoration, of mistaking Patience for weakness. His students learn to look beyond the obvious choices, the comfortable casting, the profitable prejudices, to seek the excellence that hides in plain sight, the authenticity that waits in corners, the power that patience protects. Jake Morrison disappears from the industry, from memory, from relevance. His name becomes caution, his story becomes warning, his fate becomes reminder that cruelty eventually always finds its price. Through executives who witnessed Bruce Lee's demonstration that day in the studio, tell the story at board meetings, industry panels, private dinners, how they almost lost a fortune, a legend, a transformation, how close they came to remaining blind, to staying ignorant, to missing everything that mattered there. Children grow up knowing Bruce Lee's name, respecting Lu Wei's legacy, understanding Tommy's wisdom, about seeing clearly, about listening carefully, about recognizing excellence wherever it appears, however it's packaged, whoever carries it. The display case expands over the years, includes other artists, other stories, other examples of excellence, overlooked talent, dismissed, dignity delayed, but also eventually, always eventually recognition, earned respect, granted justice, served. Bruce Lee's handwriting joins Lu Wei's calligraphy, student beside teacher, legacy beside legacy, truth beside truth, the characters they wrote in moments of patience, in seasons of struggle, in years of waiting, now speak to generations unborn, in languages not yet invented, about truths that never change, that excellence exists in unexpected places, that dignity lives in quiet hearts, that respect belongs to those who earn it through persistence, through authenticity, through the courage to remain true when comfort demands conformity, when profit requires performance, when acceptance costs identity. The studio thrives, the industry changes, the world learns slowly, imperfectly, incompletely, but truly, that the background often contains the most important story, that the quiet voice often carries the most powerful message, that the patient heart often houses the most dangerous storm, and somewhere in the space between stillness and motion, silence and speech, patience and power, Bruce Lee's spirit, Lu Wei's wisdom, Tommy's faithfulness continue their work, teaching anyone who chooses to see, to listen, to recognize, to respect the excellence that waits in every corner of every room, of every life, of every story, until the moment comes when waiting ends, when speaking begins. When the quiet storm finally, inevitably, powerfully breaks, what would you do if everyone mistook your patience for weakness? Now you know the answer. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe. Some storms are worth the wait.